The scheduled episode of The Reluctant Disney Adult, A Tale of Two Families, a comparison of Encanto and Strange World, will not be seen today, so that we can bring you the following special report.
Hey, howdy, hey, everybody. I'm Amy, and welcome to The Reluctant Disney Adult, where we take on almost all things Disney. Today, we're going to talk about the big battle ongoing between the Walt Disney Company and Ron DeSantis. Gosh, I hope you're looking forward to hearing about special development districts and impact fees and restricted covenants tied to the death of the currently living descendants of Charles III because... Sorry, folks. I just can't do it. I'm not going to sit here and put on a fake cheerful tone and go through all of this without ignoring the giant elephant in the room. As much as I'd like to talk about the Reedy Creek Improvement District or Encanto and Strange World, recent events in Florida must be attended to instead. Back in May, the Republican-dominated Florida Legislature, at the behest of Governor Ron DeSantis, ended a crowded legislative season with some of the vilest laws to come out of 2023. And holy hell, given how 2023 has gone for states persecuting LGBTQ plus people with new laws, that's saying something. First up was an extension of the controversial Don't Say Gay law to apply up to 8th grade. Yep, that's right. The same law that kicked off DeSantis' vendetta against Disney because they had the temerity to belatedly oppose it. The law also states that schools don't have to respect a child's real name or pronouns, even if the parents request that. Oh, it also makes it easier for the hateful busybodies to ban books and trigger costly and annoying investigations. Then there's a law that gives healthcare providers and insurance companies the ability to deny service to any person based upon religious, moral, or ethical reasons. Keep in mind that this isn't talking about individuals expressing their beliefs, but companies. In addition, this law also allows these entities to discriminate on the same basis for hiring. And finally, for good measure, it bans medical boards from penalizing doctors for spreading misinformation. Now, those two laws are bad enough on their own, but we're just getting started. 7 years after it blew up in North Carolina's face, Florida passed its own bathroom ban. The law requires people in public buildings to use the bathroom for their gender assigned at birth. If asked to leave, the person can be detained by law enforcement, searched for proof of the violation, i.e., have their genitals inspected, and charged with criminal trespassing. Though this was a compromise from a worse form, which included private businesses and healthcare facilities, it still means a whole lot of buildings. For example, rest areas, bathrooms in public parks, bathrooms in schools, including universities, prisons, stadiums, convention centers, and yes, even airports. Last and worst is Senate Bill 254. This law bans gender-affirming care for all minors except for some who are already being treated. Not just vanishingly rare surgeries, but also puberty blockers and hormone replacement therapy are banned. Healthcare providers who continue to provide these services to minors will be held liable for criminal prosecution. Oh, and in addition, it allows courts to modify custody arrangements in the favor of the non-affirming one if an affirming parent takes their child out of the state for treatment. Less comprehensive, but still damaging, are the increased obstacles to adults seeking care. The state created a mandatory consent form for all trans adult patients to sign before they can be treated. Naturally, though this law went into effect immediately after passage last month, that form has yet to be made available. Until it is, many trans people in Florida, particularly new patients, will be denied all treatment. And even once that form is available, there are still several obstacles in their way to receiving affirming treatment. All government healthcare entities in Florida are banned from providing gender-affirming care, no matter what age. In addition, the law bans telehealth appointments for gender-affirming care, as well as barring nurse practitioners from providing it. Happy Pride from Governor Ron DeSantis and his pals at the Florida State Legislature. These intolerable acts are an unequivocal attack on the trans people of Florida, as well as all trans people who visit the state, which means it could directly impact all of us here at the Reluctant Disney Adult. You see, I'm a trans woman. In large part for future videos, I have plans to visit Walt Disney World again sometime over the next year. With the reprehensible bathroom law in place, I have no choice but to think twice about it. It's not that I'm worried about Walt Disney World. It's a place where I have little doubt I would continue to be as welcomed as we were back in March. But getting to and from the Walt Disney World property is a different matter. As we all know, bladders and digestive systems don't recognize laws and borders. If I were to stop at a rest area, it's quite possible I would have to choose between going to a bathroom where I might get assaulted for being trans, or going to another bathroom where I'd risk confrontation and humiliating arrest. Why go through that kind of hassle? That's stripping of my dignity, especially when there's another park in a less hostile state where I could go. But all in all, that's just a big annoyance to me. For the thousands of trans adults currently living in Florida, these laws are dangerous and even life-threatening. Already, many have been dropped by their healthcare and insurance providers, not just because those companies are taking advantage of the morality law to dump them, but because they are uncertain of their liability with respect to the laws restricting trans-affirming healthcare. To the people putting these harsh restrictions in place, the uncertainty is a feature, not a bug, as anything that makes it harder for trans people to seek care is the point. As for the law requiring a specific informed consent form, it's been weeks since it went into effect, and it's still not available, and may not be for some time yet. As such, many cannot get needed hormone replacement therapy refills because of this, and no one can start their therapy. Furthermore, the ban on nurse practitioners and telehealth are particularly petty and targeted. There is no reason that these commonplace treatment methods that patients, regardless of their gender identity or age or race or circumstances, take advantage of. suddenly there's unsafe for us, that's doubtful. As hateful as the laws restricting trans adults are, they're just the appetizer. The main course are the laws focusing on trans children. Unless they are one of the lucky few grandfathered in, there's no way they can get affirming care in Florida. And even if a doctor dared to treat them using the standards of virtually every credible medical organization in the country, by the way, they risk getting charged with a crime. The lawmakers and their supporters who champion these laws claim they are protecting parents' rights. But it's clear that it's just a parent's right to deny their trans kid affirmative care and not the right to affirm them. They take the decision out of the hands of the parents and their children's doctors and put it into the hands of government officials, some of whom compare trans people to mutants and demons. In short, it forces a gut-wrenching choice for parents of trans kids. Uproot the family at great financial and emotional cost to flee to a safer state, or be complicit in the cruelty inflicted by the state of Florida upon their child. Banning gender-affirming care, forcing schools to refuse to affirm a child's correct name or pronouns, and banning discussion of all LGBTQ people is part of the plan these extremist lawmakers have for the children of today and tomorrow. You see, they believe that if they can control what information a child is given and beat them into just the right shape, they can ensure the child becomes a perfectly acceptable cisgender adult. But that's not what happens. Yes, they can rob the child of the language to understand what's happening, or force them into a dazed sort of compliance. It doesn't matter. The child is still trans. The child will hide it from themselves and others, either consciously or not, for years and even decades. All the while suffering damage and trauma because they're detached from their true selves. If they're lucky, one day they might escape and find a safe place where they can figure it all out. If they make it that far. Many don't. It's a moral panic, folks, and a scary one at that. It combines the rabid self-righteousness of the Salem witch trials and the ridiculous bullshit of Pizzagate. Every time, these witch hunts aren't based on facts, but ignorance and hate. Many innocent people are hurt, some are killed, and so many supposedly good people do and say terrible things they wouldn't do if they just stopped for a few seconds and thought about it. Now, eventually, the moral panic fades away and we move on, vowing to remember so there won't be a next time. But the extremists will find another target to make the outgroup meant only for scorn and reprobation. And again we begin. If you can't tell, I don't like talking about this. I'm so looking forward to getting back to creating videos about almost all things Disney. But I had to say something because it's important. This is about right and wrong. And what Florida and so many other states like it are doing is unambiguously wrong. And more so, it's a losing proposition in the long run. You can't eliminate trans people. Not entirely. We've been around as long as there have been people, and we're going to be around until the very end. Sorry to our haters, this is just the way it is. It's quite simple, really. We all have the choice of two futures. The first is a bleak one, where us trans people are persecuted for our very existence and unable to live openly. That's no future at all worth living in. It's just so limited, dull, and drab. So very joyless. So why not the second future? Ignore the sad, misguided people getting whipped up by grifters and demagogues to threaten children's hospitals and frontline retail employees. Instead, embrace the bright and sunny future full of affirmation for us all. It'll be a heck of a lot more fun, I promise you. And we can get there much sooner than you'd think. You see, I've traveled a lot across this great country, and I know most people just don't give a hoot about us. Now, I wouldn't go so far as to mistake indifference for support. We still have work to do. These hateful, intolerable laws need to be repealed and rolled back, and laws that protect our ability to receive affirming care need to replace them from sea to shining sea. But do you know what happens when we are safe and free to pursue our happiness as our true selves? The sun rises, the sun sets, and life goes on. We're not disruptions or problems, but just another part of the majestic tapestry of daily life. It's amazing how mundane affirmation can be. Yet within that mundanity lies an exciting future. Someday these monsters will be stopped, as yet another new birth of freedom is finally realized. The cheerful bells of affirmation will ring out not just in Chicago, Illinois, and Burbank, California, but also Orlando, Florida, and yes, even Marceline, Missouri. The hate will recede to become a relic of the history books, for future generations to puzzle over how weird it was that some people were so hateful to a tiny group just trying to live their best life. It's a beautiful thought, and with work and a little bit of luck, I believe it will happen in my lifetime. On that day, I look forward to celebrating the great, big, beautiful tomorrow we've all worked together to create. The Dole Whip's on me. Thank you for watching this special edition of The Reluctant Disney Adult. 2 weeks from today, on June 22nd, we will be returning with our regularly scheduled episode comparing Encanto and Strange World. Please be sure to like this episode and also subscribe to make sure that you stay up to date with all of our new episodes. Thank you for watching.